Hello, everyone, again. I welcome you all to today's session. And in keeping with our tradition, we will begin with observing 10 minutes of deep silence. And following that, we'll have further discussion and thoughts and inputs, insightful thoughts from Sri Ashish as well. So we shall now begin with the session. And I now invite Sri Ashish to guide us further.
Namaskar, everybody. Good morning. Once again, apologies. We're having issues with Microsoft Teams. I think we had some same problems last week as well, or the last session. Anyways, so I think on today's call, mostly everybody has been on these sessions before. So our silent session will be just sitting in silence and whatever thoughts are coming, you let them come, just watch them, witness them, but try and hold on to the deep silence within. So we'll do for 10 minutes.
So we have concluded our 10 minutes of silence. We shall now gradually transition back.
So let's give it a minute. Let everybody just come out. Okay. How's everybody feeling this morning?
Fine, sir.
Good. Good. So I think what I wanted to do this morning, um, so for people who've been regularly attending for the last couple of sessions, starting in 2024, um, we've had some deep conversations on, I consciousness, individuality. We've had conversations on mind and consciousness as well, the nature of the mind. And last session we had was on surrender. And I think this is a good um, segue to start laying the foundation or the groundwork for the threefold path. So for people who've had the opportunity to read the book, what I'd created through my learnings and my practice over the last 8, 9 years was to try and compile and compress um, the learnings into what I call a threefold path. And the threefold path per se is very simple. I try to simplify this understanding um, because what we find is that a lot of people, or most people, when we start talking about spirituality or religious scriptures or talk about something very abstract, if it's not broken down into simplified steps or methods, then usually people's focus or attention or the interest starts to um, dwindle. And it's just, they say, hey, this is very difficult, we can't understand this. And it happened with me as well. So this is not something which is out of the extraordinary. When I started my practice or going down this path, the first few books that I picked up, they were very difficult for me to understand. I couldn't, the Bhagavad Gita, for example, I picked up Sri Prabhupada's, the ISKCON's version, and it was very, very difficult to comprehend. So the idea here was to try and take all of these learnings, the experiences, the practice, and then try and see how I could, cut through all the layers of complexities that people had built over time, and to get down to the crux of what this is all about. And when you truly understand um, um, this whole process of creation and this whole process of what's going on in life, um, it's actually very simple. The truth, the practice, the method is what even Ramanna said, and what Sri Nisra Datta Maharaj said was that, look, when you truly understand it, the methods are very crude and simple. So um, don't um, don't try to just throw them away because they're simple, um, because in simplicity is where the beauty lies. So I think I wanted to start the conversation today with um, what the threefold path is, and it's basically says understanding, implementation, and experience. And what does that mean? So first step, understanding. Um, Over the last few sessions, have you truly understood um, what your true nature is and what reality is? And when I keep harping on what your true nature is, I'm trying to take you back and make you understand the origin, where the starting point is. Because we are all have been made to believe that our starting point is as an individual, right? Our starting point is that we are separate from something else called, you can call it God or whatever it is, but um, we are starting as an individual entity and not as the absolute, Parabrahman or Brahman as the absolute entity, which is the source and nature of all. So the first part is to understand um, that and become centered in that understanding that we are all the absolute. We are nothing else but the absolute. Um, and then starts the practice. And that's where non-dual or non-duality principle comes in. Um, and that was the first part of my threefold path, is to understand that Satya Advaita Hain, that the truth is non-dual. And the meaning of that was that the underlying essence of all is one and the same. And the meaning of that means that the starting point of all is one and the same. That means that we are all the absolute. We are all Parabrahman. And then the question arises is, then what is this Parabrahman? What is this absolute? And what is the nature of this absolute? And I've always said to uh, most of you that have either been on these sessions or have met me one on one, that our nature or the nature of Parabrahman is silent, it's still, and it's thought free. And this part, which we call reality, does not change, has never changed, will never change. And if, and there are other pointers to it, what people have written, that this is nothingness, you can call it emptiness, you can call it, scientifically, people have called it the black hole. So there are different, definitions that people have tried to say, but this is beyond words. This is where language, this is beyond language, this is beyond anything and everything. So this is the base of existence. So if there is still doubt on that understanding, then the confusion remains. So first thing was to truly comprehend and be able to understand this point, that look, the starting point or the origin or the base of all existence is emptiness or nothingness. It just is. There is no definition to it. It is beyond language, beyond action, beyond thoughts, beyond anything and everything. And this absolute is unchanging. It's permanent. Um, it just is. There is no way to define it, but only to have direct experience of it. And the only way to do that is the next point, is to now take this understanding and basically implement. So the next point then always arises, look, we are, you're saying we are absolute, but there is this world, there is this body that we are in, and um, you know we are experiencing outward, things that are happening with us. We have emotions, we have feelings, this body has it. We feel these emotions, there are actions that we're doing, we're performing, we're talking, all of this stuff that we're doing, then where is this coming from? So then the second understanding is to now go from what is happening from the absolute to, the world. How is this perception or this appearance of creation has happened on this base of existence, which where, on reality, as we call it, that there's actually nothing going on. So what has occurred that has made this appearance happen, and what will happen to make this appearance disappear? So this is the second part of understanding that we will discuss over the next few sessions, because I think this is where people are getting lost. So I think people, have in some shape, form, or kind have the belief of a supernatural being or a state of being where they call, whether we call it self, whether we call it Brahman, whether we call it God, um, there is this super power that has some that people believe has existence. And people also, because they have, a body, a name, they have a life, they have relationships, they're, going through the rigmaroles of life and the struggles, then they also have this belief and understanding that, look, so we've got two posts, we've got two pillars, but where the disconnect is happening is what is going on um, in the middle. We've taken for granted that we are born, and then, we have this life and we will die. And that's taken for granted, but nobody has really thought about the in between. It's all accepted, or, there is something called God, some unknown entity. And here we are, and, this has been accepted, but nobody has really um, gone back and to start seeing things from the absolute, that look, what are the steps that actually have appeared to happen, which has created this, this wonderful universe. It seems to be doing things, and things are happening in this universe, and then at one point it all disappears. So I think I want to um, spend time over the next number of sessions in trying to help and guide whoever wants to understand um, this process of you know where this is all coming from, and eventually what the practice needs to be able to reverse um, this appearance to disappear. And of course, then the third last part that comes in, so that's one is the understanding part, that you really need to get centered in that, and truly start understanding that, and then start implementing the practice. And the practice is very simple. What we've defined in the threefold path, or the threefold path that's been defined by me, is it says to just be. A lot of people have this question on what does that mean? What does it mean to just be? And if I cut it down into four simple words, it would be remember, abide, stabilize, and realize. What does that mean? Um, what that means is to constantly remember who you are, or who you truly are. Um, to constantly remember that you are actually the absolute. The perception or the individuality or the perception of a separate existence actually is not there. It's just a perceived or a concept, um, but it does not. So if you keep remembering constantly, um, that you are the absolute. With every action or every emotion, if you constantly in your free time, as much as you can remember, the more you'll be able to abide in that remembrance. So remember, and then abiding in that remembrance, the more you do it, the more you abide in it. And the more you abide in that remembrance, the more you stay in your original starting point, the more you remain in that point where you became aware of your, true existence. That point then stabilizes you in that. And if you stabilize in that point of origin, then what happens is that this point where, consciousness had taken place without having any attachments, the simple consciousness without movement, as it remained as pure awareness that we call I am, this I am then automatically, once you get stabilized in it, starts to show you what it actually is and what it truly means, and starts to opening up and starts to make you realize or understand what this all, how this was created, how this has all happened, and you can actually experience it. So then realization is that part which is experience. So then the last part of the threefold path which I put was experience. As you start implementing this practice, you start experiencing more and more. This thing starts opening you up more and more to what reality is. And eventually you then permanently abide in I am. And once you start permanently abiding in the I am, a point comes when you transcend the I am as well. And then you just be and remain as you were from your starting point, which is what we call um, awakening, nirvana, self-realization. So awakening or true awakening basically ends up being that you now awaken from the dream that you so far, this I am had created, or this, this being that had appeared, so-called I am, which starts the dreaming process. So this is um, what the threefold path is. I'll leave it. I think that I'll leave now here. So I'll open it for questions. Any questions on this? Anil, I know you're always the first one. So I think break the ice.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I think the you explained very well, the threefold path, and you're right that I think we all kind of intuitively know that there is a Param Brahman or superpower, whatever we want to term it. The challenge, I think, comes on the implementation side because, and you explained that, I think it will be helpful to kind of give an example of that conflict that comes when we know intuitively that there is the self, right? And then we see what we see in the world, that we have a body, we have a mind, we have things to do, and we are afraid, we are happy, we are sad, and that we see as a reality. That's actually happening. We are feeling from our senses, we are understanding through our mind. How do you bridge that gap? And perhaps you can give an example of some situation where somebody is having this reality that we see in this physical world. And what practice do you do to transcend this physical reality and get into that absolute self?
So Anil, I think a lot of people have asked this, right? And a lot of people have had situations post, um, understanding or sitting with me. So what I've told people, and this is what I've also, done as my own practices, is if an event or an emotion, or an action or something is troubling you, the general focus of the mind or of the individual mind per se is to get entangled in that event, right? Is to get identified um, with that event, and you take it upon yourself that that event has happened to this individual entity, called I or to Anil. And then you start to analyze and you start to figure out, and then you start to do things where, try to dissect it, and then try to see, what could you have done better or not had done. And that then continues you with the identification process. Now, if you quickly, at that point when the event is happening or happening, if you are able to then remember that you are the absolute and not the individual, and that in the absolute, there is actually nothing going on, that this is all appears to be happening, but it's not happening to the absolute. Then what happens is that you then suddenly check yourself and say, hey, wait a minute, whatever has happened is just happened like it has happened in a dream or in a movie. And then this has not happened to me as the absolute, but it's happened to a character or to a entity, called Anil, which is fictitious. It's make believe, right? So at that point, your focus now changes from being entangled within that emotion or in that emotion or in that event to coming back to just being a witness or an observer of that event. And the more you do this, the more you find that your entanglements or your attachments start to start to minimize. And the more you start going into events, you start realizing that you started to now go into events not as Anil, but as somebody who is just observing Anil. So when you start entering those, you know, future events, you begin already with a non-attachment. So you only go to those events or those, actions or the emotions, with already a non-attachment happen to those events. Do you understand uh, where I'm, how I'm positioning this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
then if you go with, so like when you go to the movie, you already know it's a movie, right? You go in there, you go in to have entertainment, right? You go and you say, look, I'll spend 2 hours in the movie. This is purely for entertainment. Now, when you are in the movie, in the theater for 2 hours, yeah, you expect that, look, there could be some drama, there could be, this is a, a sad movie, or it's a, a rom-com, or it's, you have some understanding. But because you've not seen the movie, you when you're inside the movie, you or inside the theater, you start identifying a little bit, and hence you may have some emotional, ups and downs during that event or during the movie. But you are absolutely centered in the knowledge that, look, when you come out of that movie, it's not real. It was meant for entertainment, whether it was, whether you cried or you laughed or you there was mystery or there was drama, whatever it was. But you truly had this understanding that whatever you're going to go watch in there, it's not real. It's fictitious. So when you come out, you've enjoyed it, you had a great time, and you move on, right? So with this practice and with this knowledge and with this understanding, what starts happening as the knowledge of self or your true nature becomes more and more within you, as this knowledge starts increasing within you, the knowledge of objectivity, which is what the relative existence is, it begins to start fading away. It begins to start disappearing or dissolving into the knowledge of self. And this knowledge of self, which is what we call I am, which was the, kind of the original starting point of the dream, or the dream drama we call, life. This eventually, once you stabilize in this constantly, once you abide and stabilize in it, it starts to now show you, like as if you're seeing, as you go see movie, or you see, today your life, it begins to now show you completely what and how it had actually created, or had made you believe in all these things, or created this whole idea of separate existence. So it begins to now show you what true knowledge of the self is, what itself is, because this thing is now showing itself to you as is. And then once you abide and stabilize this for long enough, it then loses its stronghold, or the stranglehold on you, and basically then dissolves in what we call supreme knowledge. So supreme knowledge is what we call reality, or no knowledge is what is reality, which is the base of existence, which is what we all are. On this base of existence, something called the I am has appeared spontaneously. Just the way when you dream, in the night, you don't sleep, you don't go to bed saying, hey, I'm going to dream such and such things tonight, right? You're there, your consciousness is there, you're in deep sleep, or you're in sleep mode, and suddenly a dream appears. That means that something has begun within your consciousness to start dreaming. You, as Anil, have got no part in that. The dream has just appeared, and when you wake up, the dream disappears on its own. Same way, this I am, which has suddenly appeared spontaneously on the base of existence, is what we call consciousness. This is the starting point. This is where the awareness of the self is now become aware of itself. It's not dependent on it, it doesn't need it, but because this thing has spontaneously appeared at the starting point, where we call I am with no movement, is now begun to become conscious of itself. That means the development of recognition has started. And this, when we translate into your physical being, when the baby is born, the baby is blank piece of paper. When the birth happens, it's a blank piece of paper. There is nothing there. The baby doesn't know anything, right? When it's born. So what we say is that first 3 years, the baby is I am or I am not. It doesn't know. It not yet has identified with its name and form completely. Only after 3 years does, the conditioning starts happening of this form and name. So this I am has appeared spontaneously, and then it starts its outward movement. And these are the five elements, and we'll talk about all of this, Anil, because there's a lot here to cover. So I think as we will go through these sessions, and one-on-one sessions will happen. I'll clarify a lot of this, but this is what happens. So if you can remember your I am, or that starting point, that state of being where there was no movement, it was just the awareness or consciousness of existence. That is the gateway that starts this process of creation with its outward movement. And if you can abide and remain and stabilize in that original state, if you can remember that original state of being when you were a little baby, then as you abide and stabilize in that, then eventually, one, it shows you what it's done, and two is that it eventually you transcend it and go back into reality again, where there's nothing going on, which is your original state of being. So practice of remembrance starts to create non-attachment, starts to reduce the entanglements, starts to reduce the the roller coaster that is. You only see it as a roller coaster. You don't step onto the roller coaster anymore. It starts to bring equanimity, it starts to bring calmness, it starts to bring stability within. Further questions?
Yep, I always have one, right? So
Yes, sir.
I'm going to start, right? So you know, right? I have started reading this Bhagavad Gita, right? And I'm going to ask a few things from there. So a lot of instances in the book, or a lot of statements in the book, it keeps on talking about God. It says that for the love of God, or yeah, to calm your mind, you should visit a temple. It really says that. Why?
So, Akash, you have to read the whole Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita has been written not only from one angle, right? Bhagavad Gita has been written um, to cover all aspects and all methods that um, different people have used to realize the self. And when you start, and I don't know at what point you are in your reading, but by the time you end up on the last page of the Bhagavad Gita, um, if you've not truly understood the essence, you will come out even more perplexed and more confused. Because at one point it will say do X, Y, and Z. Then on the next chapter, it'll say, okay, you can't do this, then do A, B, C. If you can't do this, then go do D, E, F, right? So I think reading the Bhagavad Gita first completely, and which is why I think when you had asked me, I told you just first step, just read it like fiction. Just read it in one sitting. Just read as if you're reading. Don't worry about truly grasping or understanding the essence, because it's a tough read. It's a very complicated read. Now, what it has done is that during the different times when it was written, for people to understand and comprehend a abstract concept, where somebody comes and says, look, your entire life is topsy turvy. What you've been conditioned to believe for so long is all an illusion. It is not real. You yourself have looked at me and you said, Ashish bhai, I don't know what nonsense you're talking about. You've probably gone mad. So that's a very tough thing for somebody to digest. On the first day, if somebody tells you, look, your entire life has no purpose and no meaning in what you're doing in your day-to-day life, but the only purpose of life is to wake up, to realize it's a dream, then that is a very difficult, very few people can actually digest that in the first sitting. So, but what everybody has believed and tends to believe, that look, there is a God, there is me, there is a God, and in some shape, form, or kind, I have envisioned this God in form and shape. Um, and so, what must be done to be able to come to this understanding of supreme knowledge is to start from somewhere. And the first practice is to go to a temple and, start surrendering and start praying. Now, dharma or religion, when it was set up, was to help you teach and learn these things. You had gone to the Gurukul, then temples came. So the religious teachings were the same. When you went to the temple, you were supposed to go and spend time there and meet with similar minded people, so you could actually go and talk about these things that we are talking now in the satsang. But what has happened is that over time, the temple has just become a way of, going there, doing your hand, going to then to the cafe, eating a nice meal, and coming back. What have you actually learned? What have you done at the temple? Have you even sat there and felt the energies? Now, the other part of the temple was that the energies there were supposed to help you go inward. They were supposed to calm you and take your mind off your day to day rigmarole so that you could go to a temple, feel the silence there or the energies there, sit in prayer, and at least go inward and think about God. That's also not happening, right? In today, it has become a bhed chal. The only purpose of the temple is for you to feel good about it, that you've actually done something in the week where you've gone, you've done this. Maybe you've asked God for some favor, you've gone and donated, and you've gone to the cafe, you've had a good meal, and it's become like an outing. So, temples, what Bhagavad Gita was trying to say, and what is happening today is a huge,
Mm.
huge difference,
Yeah.
right? So even in Jainism, right, what the teachings of Mahavir Jain and the temples that were set up for to impart and inculcate those teachings. Means I've had numerous conversations with you and with other Jains, and you have this practice, right, for 10 days that you do.
Yeah.
But nobody knows why they're doing it. They're just doing it because somebody told them. But nobody has taken the time to truly understand the meaning and the purpose of that, 10 days of why you need to do. Why was Mahavira teaching austerity? Why is that you have to become so austere so that you can give up, in your different entanglements
Mm.
basically come from life, so that you could then go inward to try and find the true answer and the true meaning of all this. But that's not happening anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I believe everything is more commercial now than connecting to soul, I guess.
Yeah. So this is where, if you read the Bhagavad Gita with today's understanding, right, with what what is happening out there today, then you will always have this conflict within. You will always start comparing, hey, Bhagavad Gita says to go do this, but when I look at outside, it's not happening, right? So which is why it's important, I've told you, is read the full thing, because at the end the Bhagavad Gita says do karam yoga, then explains if you can't do karam yoga, it's difficult. That Arjun says, I don't understand, Lord.
Mm.
Says, okay, then if you don't understand that, then do dhyan yoga. This is the other method. Then he says, Lord, but that is a very hard thing. Okay, you don't understand that, then do jnana yoga, which is self-inquiry. If you can't, he says, Lord, this is also complicated. Then he says, do bhakti yoga. Then only surrender to me.
Mm.
And even at the end, he says, but how do I surrender? I don't understand it. Then he says, at the point of death, if you can't do anything, then at the point of death, just remember me, which also is very difficult to do.
Yeah.
So right, it's so Bhagavad Gita is meant from different perspective, but you have to, at the end, they have to find somebody who can take out the essence
Mm.
of each path of yoga. What is the underlying essence? What is Krishna saying to Arjun? is the ultimate goal. Whether you take the Karma Yoga path, or the Dhyan Yoga path, or the Gyan Yoga path, or the Bhakti Yoga path, what is the end goal of all of these paths is what you have to take out as the essence.
Hmm.
And what has happened with the current masters? Bhagavad Gita was probably written, some say 5,000, some say 11,000 years ago. But what the current masters have done, and what I'm trying to do, is that today's day and age, when this was written, and what is happening today, there is a evolution in life, in the universe. The dream drama has evolved. So with today's conditioning, if you ask somebody how many people actually know the Bhagavad Gita, what it is, no, even in our own Hinduism, nobody. How many people know? So
Yeah.
today, day and age, people are looking for something which is simplified, which people can understand, which is why Atma Vichara, self-inquiry, Ramanna said, so did Siddha Rameshwar Maharaj, who was Nisargadatta Maharaj's guru. He said, let me teach the bird's way, which is the shortest way, right? What is the bird's way? Bird always flies the shortest way, right? So it is about self-inquiry, basically to simplify and basically question the questioner, which is what we call Gyan Yoga, which is to figure out who you are, abide in that remembrance, because this is the shortest way. They figured out for today's day and age.
Yeah, shortcuts for everything, I guess. If anybody has a
Because how many people will actually do like Mahavir Jain, the first yamas and niyamas? How many people in today's day and age truly understand Dhyan Yoga and will be able to even achieve, perfection or understanding of that perfection in the first yamas? It's very difficult.
yeah,
It's just not possible. Which is why meditation today has taken a whole different role. Meditation has become a wellness tool.
yeah,
Okay. If it brings calmness, if it brings health, if it brings help for you to calm your mind so that you can start the practice of Atma Vichar or self inquiry, then wonderful. So we always say that your Karam Yoga and all of these other practices are auxiliaries. They are meant to help you start your actual practice.
yep. Yep. May I go on, or anybody has anything else?
I think Pete was wanting to ask something. Pete, were you looking to ask something?
Yeah, uh, as you said, absolute, that is the uh, highest level of awareness, right? And if that is what I guess from the one or two discussions we had last time I attended. If I put a circle as a big circle like around the earth or something, if that is the absolute, um, we go through the transformation at various stages. Those transformations are the uh, it appears like a dream or something, but may not be real. But even dream itself is a dream, right? Those are momentary for for a very fraction of a second. It might come and go in the big absolute circle. Um, should we take in that way? Is it as you mentioned? These are all fractions of a moment are get transcended to the various next level. Well, if that is happening, um, why not to know about those things? We are in that stage, that's fraction of a moment time in a big absolute in the universe. Uh, at this moment, even though we may be getting to know a little bit of, absolute. If by knowing that one, we might make our life more enjoyable or soothing or cooperative among ourselves in that shortest mini stage of uh, dream or our life. The dream is a short life of 100 years. That may be a very, very smallest thing in the big absolute. That's what am I right? Am I on the right path of thinking, or uh,
Yes. So let me clarify your diagram so that I know you. A lot of us are visual people, right? And Anil keeps telling me about this, that he likes to put this in diagrams or pictures, right? To
right,
understand, right? So
right.
take for example, so a blank piece of paper, right?
Mhm,
Take a blank piece of paper.
mhm.
Now assume that this blank of piece of paper is the absolute. That's the base of existence,
Mhm.
and it's across the board is the same, right? So that blank piece of paper. Now you begin to either write on this blank piece of paper, or you begin to draw, or you begin to sketch, or you begin to just scribble. Now what happens is that when you begin to write or scribble or draw, you tend to forget. Your focus changes from the blank piece of paper to the drawing or the sketch or the writing. And you forget and you identify with what is on the piece of paper rather than the piece of paper.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
But the piece of paper, the blank piece of paper, has not lost its nature, right? It has not lost its. So even the writing or everything is still part of that piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
That's.
when you rub and when you remove the writing or you rub away the sketch
Mhm.
or anything, right? What is remain is still that blank piece of paper.
Yeah.
So this is the way life is. Something is appearing and disappearing on this blank piece of paper. Now, as long as you identify and you keep involved in that writing, you are always in the writing. If you remove it, then you are the blank piece of paper. So you have to remember that you are the blank piece of paper. The writing and the sketching and everything will come and go.
Mhm.
But the effect of that writing, the effect of the sketch, anything that you write or you sketch has no effect on that blank piece of paper. It always remains as the blank piece of paper. The nature of that blank piece of paper is not changed by the sketch or the writing on that piece of paper.
Yeah. I think, yeah, it makes sense what you're saying. Yeah, that's right. So blank sheet of paper remains as it is. Whatever we have done for a short period of time, it wrote and erased. Uh,
And whatever
that's
you have not done, because the blank piece of paper has not done anything on it. Something
right.
seems
Right.
to have
Yeah.
appeared and disappeared from the blank piece of paper's perspective.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Something has appeared and disappeared. It
Mhm.
is still, from its perspective, from where it stands, it is always that blank piece of paper. It is not affected by what is written on it, what
Yeah.
is sketched on it, what has happened on it.
Okay. Yeah. That's very beautiful. That means our awareness should be on the blank
Blank
sheet
piece
of
of paper. That's it.
paper.
If you keep remembering and abiding that you are the blank piece of paper, then anything and everything that is happening on the blank piece of paper is irrelevant. Doesn't matter to you.
Just being aware of it
That's it.
itself might give us in a in invisible short period of time also could be happier. Uh,
Yes, that's it. So this is what remembrance, abidance, stabilization, and realization means.
mm,
Remembering that you're a blank piece of paper,
okay.
abiding as much as possible in that remembrance. All When you stabilize in that, that means now you know that for sure, and you've now stabilized in that remembrance. And once you've stabilized, you realize who you truly are.
So Ashish, I think one question here, right? I think if we are at that stage where we are blank paper, then it doesn't matter at all,
That is
because
correct.
there's nothing happening. You're just at that level. The challenge is that we believe that we are drawing it, meaning, let's look at the real situation. I'm sitting in my home, right? I need to eat after a few hours, right? I need to kind of, go someplace, right? If I'm just staying at the Brahman level, at the blank sheet of paper, what will happen is the body that we actually feel pain about, or we have anguish, we have problems. If you're not solving them, then body will just decay and die. So,
Okay,
so there is,
so
there is,
hold your thought.
yeah.
I got your point. Hold your thought. So this is where the understanding is what we will discuss in the sessions, because you are still looking yourself with the identification with the body. What you have missed out is what and how the sketches and those drawings have actually appeared. You basically believe that you are the one who is sketching and drawing and creating. Hence, you believe that you are in control, and if you don't do this, then something else will happen. So this is where now the next step is once you've understood this blank piece of paper, in the next session, we will discuss how the drawings, from where those drawings and those writings have actually appeared or seem to appear on this blank piece of paper. Because till you don't understand that, you are not able to let go of this body consciousness, of
And
this
and what
control
my
consciousness,
point, Ashish, is that I think let's not sort of like discuss it. Let's sit down and not eat for 3 days.
right?
See what
Right?
happens.
See, right? See,
Right? That's
a
what I'm
lot of
saying.
yeah, a lot
See,
of people,
this is where I think the challenge is not that we will not do things. See, that's not the point here. We will do things. We will move around. We will interact. They the wisdom is not being affected by them, not being attached to them. So you will continue to do what you are doing, but the remembering that you are the Brahman, not the person who's doing it. Then anything that happens, when you're hungry, you're going to go and eat. When you actually have to make money, you're going to go and make money, but you're not attached to any of that, because you're abiding in that blank paper. You're looking from that sense. It does not come in the single day. As you were saying in the very beginning, you continue to think about that. But what I'm trying to say is that if you just think about the Brahman only and sit in one place, there are 10 people, 15 people here, just let not eat for next 30 days, 5 days, see what happens. We will know immediately, right? So I think the action has to be there, right? But not attachment to those action should come with this knowledge.
no. So where your understanding is not correct, and I think this is where you've struggled over the last few years with me, is that you believe that the action also is being done by you. As long as you believe in your individual separate existence, you will not get away from the belief that you have to act. And this is where a wrong understanding comes. What I've been trying to tell you is that this I am, which has appeared on reality, is what drives all the actions, all the words, all the things that the individual characterization of that I am is only a fiction. It's a figment of somebody's imagination. So when Akash asked me that, Ashish bhai, I'm here, and what about God? What I'm trying to tell you is that there is only God. Whatever is happening by God. The form and name has no substantial existence. It's only a fictional character, name, and form given. Whatever is happening within the dream, by the dream, of the dream. So your belief that if Anil does not do an action has no relevance, because Anil Joshi has no locus standi in the matter as an individual. If that character has to do or perform, it is being driven by something else. And that is who you are. You are just an observer of a dream being pushed out by somebody else, by something that has appeared spontaneously. There is no doing or doership in this. And as long as you keep identifying with the concept of that I am there and I exist, so I have to act and not be attached to it, you will never ever get attached, non-attachment from it. Because you're attached to the very illusion that there is a separate individual existence. It'll never happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is kind of, a blind faith.
Has
What
to
I'm
be.
trying to say is that you take two people, one person actually doesn't, we can do in our group. If you really think about this, let's not eat for 5 days. We have that will, right? I can eat, I cannot eat. People do fasting.
Again, see this
Right
again,
now,
Anil,
here the
Anil,
challenge is just
Anil,
one second, Ashish. That here the challenge is what we are saying is that whether you will fast or not fast is also not decided by you. That's why I think you have to believe in that. Then I think what you're saying all makes sense.
obviously, Anil, if you right now you believe in individuality, so you behave that way. Till you don't start with believing that you are the absolute, how will you ever come out of this? You have to start, which is where remembrance is. If you continuously believe in your individuality, then you will behave and act as if you're an individual. And then to expect that the individual will not have its inherent nature and not be attached is a fool's paradise. It will never happen. It's foolery. You're fooling yourself. Till you do not come out of the belief, which is why in these sessions I've said there are three ways of validation. First validation is that people who have done this before, you have to believe somebody. Today you believe that there is a God because somebody has told you. Nobody, none of us have seen God, but we all believe that there is a God. We all go to temples and we all join our hands and there is a statue, but we all believe that within that statue there is something there. That's also belief. So first validation, what we call Shruti, is what is written. Second is Smriti. This is also what your scriptures say. But the highest level of validation is through your own experience. So if you have started with faith somewhere, that you've started to believe that there is something beyond this individual existence, that there is one faction says there is this separate existence. There is another faction which says non-duality, that says there is no separate existence. If you keep believing in duality and if you keep believing in a separate individual existence, then you will keep going down this path. You will keep going around in circles. So you start with non-duality. You say, okay, there is a master who has done this. Take it Buddha, take it Jesus Christ, whoever you believe. That's why there is a guru that comes. You say, okay, maybe something that this gentleman is saying, or this person is saying, this woman is saying, maybe there is something to it, because so far what I've been doing, I keep going around in circles. I keep doing the same thing. I can't find any joy. I can't find any happiness. I can't find anything new. I've been doing what everybody else has been doing. So let me try something. Let me see. I found somebody that is making some sense. maybe there is something here. That is your first faith that you start with. Now, if you keep questioning what the other person is saying and you won't practice what he's saying, then how will you experience something that he's saying that you will experience? Only by practicing slowly and experiencing, and by believing in that and experiencing what he's saying, will you start believing more. If somebody told me that this food, if I eat, will make me slimmer, or this medicine, and I keep saying, no, it will not, I don't believe you. Okay, don't believe me. But if I believe that this pill will actually make me slimmer, then I will take it. If after taking a few, I start reducing weight, I'll say, okay, maybe this works. Let me do more. So this is what we say, that you have to first have faith. You have to start from belief. But as long as you can't have it both ways, Anil. You can't
No,
say,
as an individual, Ashish, my experience has been this, that you will do what inspires you to do. You will actually be in a happy state and in exhilaration state if you do what you feel like doing, that you enjoy doing. So that, I think, is a starting point. And this is my experience, not what has been written, right? This is the experience. Then what you do is there will be outcomes to those activities. It may be in your favor, it may not be in your favor, or not in your favor. If it is in your favor, you are remaining in that happy state because you did something, you achieved something, you remain happy with that state, right? So there's no need for looking for Param Brahman at that point in time. You are happy all along.
No, there is a
Now,
need.
no,
I
the only
want to
thing
interrupt
is
you.
when it does not come according to your wishes as expected, typically you would feel suffering, you will feel sad, you will feel disappointed. At that point, that knowledge comes that this is nothing to worry about. This is not happening to you. The consciousness, right? That actually helps you alleviate or not suffer. Otherwise, you would have suffered at that point in time. That's a practical way of thinking about this.
I want to intrude here, Anil. See, as you take this path of pleasure and joy, when the suffering comes, recognizing that it is not something that you need to experience, it is a detached thing. It's not something real. Recognizing that is not an easy thing because pleasure has already captured you. So suffering also um, captures. It's not easy to recognize this detachment, experiencing these extreme emotions.
And that's where the equanimity comes. So when you are actually happy, you not sort of like run around the streets and jump up and down. You also take that happiness with a dose of balance, right? So you actually have created in yourself a capability that whether it is sorrow or happiness, you are treating them equally. That is the real, in my mind, that is the real value of spiritualism. That your ups
And,
and downs of emotions, you have kind of remaining in the balanced state all the time.
and is that not what Guruji is teaching us now?
Yeah, so I think that there's a difference here. I think again, whatever I think Sri Ashish is talking about makes sense to me intellectually, right? From the experience perspective, I cannot sit in my home and not eat. I have to do what I need to do. Now, whether it is driven by a third party God, that I do not know. I just do not know whether this is being driven by somebody else. But I know that if I do not eat for next 5 days, my body will decay, and whatever wherever I am, I will sort of like, I know that it will sort of like, go away. So I have to do something about it.
No,
There, I
that's
think,
not
yeah.
like I am with Guruji and I don't agree with you, Anil. Whether you eat or not, it's a decision that is being made and consequences will be there. Whether to worry or not is something that you are attributing to it. Means for the next 5 days, if you don't want to eat, nothing happens. Even if you die, nothing happens. You are thinking that there is something that is going to happen. But Guruji is saying that whatever happens, it's okay. There is nothing that
No,
is
it is
happening to the
okay,
point.
but see, Srinivas, see, I think, that if you don't eat for next 10 days, you know what will happen. 15 other people can verify in the physical world. Not I'm
Okay.
talking about in the physical world, what will
So
happen, we
what's the
know that.
point? Yeah, you don't eat 15 days. What is the point?
The point is that you do something about it. That you
No,
do not, yeah.
no, that decision we are not making because we don't need to make that decision. But if someday if you feel like not eating for 15 days, we'll make that decision and the consequences will be there.
Correct.
I,
And
I
and and,
don't
that, and
see I don't see a point in not eating and something happening because of not eating in this context, Anil. If you don't eat, so what? Why are you making it a point? I'm unable to understand.
see the point. So Srinivas, I will say one more time. The point I'm making is that when you are in this physical world, you take certain decisions. When I say you, that means from your mind and knowledge that you have gained, you take certain decisions. You take
Okay.
those decisions. Hold on. You just take those decisions to get to some place, and you know the consequences. If I take a decision to jump in front of a running train, I will die. I know, I have that knowledge. And if I don't jump in front of the train, most likely I will stay alive, right? So I take decision to jump or not to jump. That is something that I'm saying, that we take decisions. Now, what I think, you may say that that decision to jump in front of the train or not actually has already been decided by somebody else. That's okay, but we do not know that.
No, that also not the point. My point is whether you jump or not. What is the point?
So, okay, so I think we're at 11:40. So this is a good time to, I will leave you with Ramanna's quote. I think this will answer this topic of discussion, and then we'll continue this in the next one. Ramanna basically quote says that there is no creation nor destruction. There is no destiny nor free will. There is no path nor achievement. This is the final truth. So on that note, I think we will leave it here. If you've grasped that, what Ramanna said, I think should answer all your questions that Anil and Srinivas, you were both making or discussing about. Good?
Yes, I understood
Yes.
what you are saying, and it is. I mean, I'm not able because knowing and experiencing are different. I'm unable to understand what the final state is, but I'm able to know what you are saying, and that makes sense. Actually, I mean, again, that is making sense is
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
part of.
Yeah.
So,
Can I
thanks a lot.
request Ashish one thing?
Yeah.
Every sessions you start, for our sake, because we are at very low level of understanding. Yeah, we are. Can we use this some of the terminologies? Can you redefine, reinforce? Absolute is one, transcendent,
Okay.
equanimity, and non-duality.
Okay.
And in addition to that, this no creation and no destruction, Ramana's theory.
Okay.
These, if you can reinforce a couple of times,
Okay.
probably we will get to know more closer.
Absolutely. And Pete, this is why scriptures always, when you read a scriptural book, if you read any book, there is a tendency of repetition.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have said, but I don't understand why, what is the point of repetition, right? And the reason for the repetition is because, it has to sink in, it sinks in slowly
Mhm.
because you have so much layers of trash that we build or conditions ourselves onto. In
Mhm.
order for that layer of trash to be removed, this has to sink in, right? So it takes time.
Mhm.
So please, anytime you guys need
Mhm.
further understanding, just raise your hand and ask. But we'll make sure that I'll make sure that I keep hammering this thing into you. My job is to keep hammering. I will
Yeah.
keep doing it. Like I'm like that little sculpture who takes
Yeah.
a big thing and slowly, slowly, slowly chisels. So my
That,
job is to keep chiseling in, right?
that would be wonderful, actually.
Yeah.
We need that one.
At the
Guruji, I
end,
want to take 1 minute to answer Anil after you.
go,
15
go
seconds.
ahead. Go ahead, Srinivas.
Anil, I understand the concern that you have that knowingly jumping before the train and all that. See, we are all in different state of mind. Today we came to Guruji because how our soul feels and what it needs and what it connects with is different. So we congregated here. If you see everyone, everyone's eye, if you take out body that has been gained by eating objective world food, we built the body and mind also by reading the books, YouTube videos, or by conversing with the outside people, we gain the mind. Both are not ours, right? Body is not ours, mind is not ours. But because they are there, we value things differently depending on what information went into us. And you are jumping before the train point that you are making, that is having some meaning and concern, all that, because that's how the information is um, becoming active in your mind, and you are interpreting the external world's information in your mind that way. So but in the end, as we die, neurons die, body decays, both the mind and body we lose. Whatever information you are storing now in the mind, it will go away. You can't hold it, right? So the point is, what Guruji, from Guruji, I am trying to learn is how to moderate this suffering, because body is biological and it decays, and that is natural again, because we cannot prevent it. Everyone has to go through the suffering. That's how the system has been designed. So from Guruji, we are trying to learn how to moderate it. In that, jumping before the train is not a point at all, is how I see it.
Yeah. So no, I think I agree with you that I think we are not what the physical entities are. We are the pure consciousness. So far, so good. That I believe. That I think if you really look for this I, you will not find this I. You will not find Anil or Srinivas. That I'm okay with. That actually, absolutely, I believe in. I think think about what the problem I
But
told
you
you.
need to do something also. You need
So
to do
suffering,
something also.
there are, yeah, there are different ways to think about how to moderate suffering. I described what I do, right? So you have to prepare yourself in that sense.
Right.
You are basically managing the downside. If you're happy, you get up in the morning, you go around and play with your children and go and talk to your colleagues and all. That's wonderful. There's nothing to be worried about that. The
But
only
they don't try
challenge
to
comes when
find a
it is a
guru, right?
downside. When it is a
No,
come in
but
the downside.
they don't try to find a guru. If someone is in that state of mind,
Yeah.
they are at some place where they are not looking for a guru at that point.
Yeah, so that's okay, but still you want to actually have the conversation. You want to actually
Yeah,
continue to
sure.
sort of like see how you can do better, because it's not like I'm not affected by any negative things that happen in my life. I'm not there yet, right? I'm continuously trying to see what
Okay.
is the method to do it.
Okay,
Right.
Anil,
I
Srinivas,
totally agree.
Anil,
Yes.
Srinivas, you guys can take this conversation offline, because I think we all have to now. We are beyond our time limit now, so I think this conversation that the two of you are having, have it offline, and then we will see you in 2 weeks, and we will continue the conversation then. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Anil.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody, and happy Holi to everybody.
Happy Holi.
Happy Holi.
Holi. Happy Holi. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Happy Holi.